Elspeth here from Vegan News Daily, and today we're going to make two Indian flatbreads. One is chapatis and the other is papadums. So I'm going to get started on the papadums, and these are going to be whole food, gluten-free, oil-free, salt-free. When I think of papadums, I always think of these really wonderful crispy flatbreads that are really drenched in oil, so we're avoiding all of that today. So the first thing I went ahead and did was I soaked some red lentils overnight. So these are really quite swollen, so it's just a cup of red lentils. And I just want to show you what a cup of red lentils looks like when it hasn't been soaked. So you can see there's a big difference, so don't skip that step. So I'm going to add the drain. So these were soaked overnight and drained. And then to this I'm going to add some water. And to give it a little bit of flavor, I'm going to add some ground cumin. So cumin's going in here. I'm also going to be adding some cumin seeds at the end of this once it's blended. I don't want the cumin seeds to be ground up in the blender, so I'm going to add those in a little bit. So here we go. So because the lentils were soaked, they're really nice and soft and they blend up very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and add some cumin seeds, and I'm just going to blend it for about 10 seconds. All the cumin seeds in here. I could just stir it in, but I'm going to blend it really quickly. That's it. So next I have my oven heated up already, and I've got baking sheets lined with some parchment paper here, and I'm simply going to pour the batter onto the parchment, and then we're going to spread it out as best we can by tilting the baking sheets. So I usually make about 2 on each baking sheet, so I have 3 going on here, 3 baking sheets ready to go. So I just pour a little bit of the batter onto the baking sheet, and then I just tilt from side to side, and I try to get like a circular or oblong shape, but and I want to get it sort of a uniform thickness on the tray. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in the oven, and then I'll do the same with the rest of the batter, just pouring about, I don't know, about half a cup of the batter onto the sheet. And then giving it a little tilt. I love the way they move together. It's like the dance of the papadums. And then this is going to go in the oven too. And I'll repeat with the third tray. I could make the batter a little bit thinner by adding extra water, so I can get extra thin papadums, because they will crisp up. The thinner they are, the more they're going to crisp up. So that's it. This is going in the oven, and I'm going to set my timer. And we'll check on those in just a moment. So I'm just going to bring over the second version of flatbread, which is chapatis. So now we have the papadums in the oven, and I'm going to get going on the chapatis. So the same thing, I have a cup of red lentils that I soaked overnight, and then I drained off all the liquid. And to this I'm going to add a cup and a half of water. And I'm going to also add some curry powder. So curry powder is going to flavor this up nicely. That's optional, you really don't have to do that at all. And then I'm just going to blend it all up. Okay, so that should be good to go. I've got a nice batter here, and this is just like making crepes or pancakes. And I have a ceramic griddle here that's all heated up, and I've heated it up to about 400 degrees. And I'm simply going to pour some of the batter onto the griddle, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the papadums, but now we're going to have the dance of the chapatis. So I'm just going to simply tilt the griddle a little from side to side and just spread out the batter. So the chapatis are going to be thicker than the papadums, and we're going to just wait until it starts to bubble up, and then I have this really wonderful spatula, silicone spatula, that I'll be able to get underneath and flip it over and cook the other side. So we'll keep an eye on the papadums and we'll keep an eye on the chapatis, and I'll show you when they're ready to flip. So these chapatis look like they're ready for me to try and flip them over. So I just run the spatula around the edge, whoops, and it's already ready to flip. So I flip that over, and I'll do the same for the other one. And then we're going to just let that cook for a few minutes on the other side. So these look ready to go. So I'm just going to place them on a, I'm going to place them on a platter and let them cool off a little bit, although they're really lovely hot. And then I'm going to pour the next chapati out on the griddle. And I could put the cooked ones into a warm oven just to stay warm, but I'm just going to tilt the griddle. And this griddle is made by Presto. I really like this one. Everything seems to work great on it. So there you go. I'm going to let those cook for a little while and patiently wait and then give it a flip. These chapatis are ready for me to flip over. So again, I just move the spatula around the side, and these are definitely ready to go. So that one's good, and I can flip that one too. So I'm going to let them cook for a couple of minutes more and see how they do. So I'm going to flip these chapatis over, and then the alarm also just went off on my oven for the papadums, so we need to check on those too. So that's good. All right, so I'll show you what I do with the papadums. So I'm going to take out one tray at a time. And you can see that they get all nice and crinkly, and they are nice and thin. So what I do here is I very carefully and very patiently peel back the parchment paper from the papadum. One. And definitely do this with parchment paper rather than a silicone baking mat. It just doesn't quite work out on a silicone baking sheet. So those are going to go back in the oven for another 4 minutes or so. So I'll do that one, and I'll continue doing the same with the other trays as well. All the while watching the chapatis. So flip it over and pull back. And don't rip it off like a Band-Aid. You want to just be a little patient so that just turn the paper and pull. If you meet resistance, just flip it the other way and keep going. There you go. So now I want to flip it over, and pop it back into the oven. And this last round of baking is just going to crisp up the papadums. So it's almost been about 4 minutes, so the top ones should be ready, but I'm just going to hit the time for 2 minutes and we'll check on those. In the meantime, these are probably perfectly done. So, yep, these are good. So if I were going to serve these right now, I would quickly put all of the papadums back on the griddle, if I could fit them on, and then that would heat them up, and then I'd be able to serve them. So these are typically eaten with curries and They can be used to sort of wrap vegetables, or used almost as a spoon in a way to scoop up all the delicious curry flavors. So this is a big one. I'll put that there. So I usually serve them on a platter like that, and I would garnish them with probably some fresh coriander. I also have these beautiful chives that I have from the farmer's market, and I thought I'd just cut up a little bit of the chives and sprinkle those on too. So that's it for the chapatis. Now we're just waiting for the papadums to come out the oven. I think they'll be ready any minute. I'm going to take a peek. Wow. So those turned out great. You can see very closely, you can see the little seeds, the cumin seeds inside these ones. But they're wonderful and crispy. I'm going to just turn off my griddle. And if you weren't going to eat them right away, you could make these in advance. And then the way that I crisp them up is either by putting them back into the oven or popping them into a toaster. And they just crisp up really easily that way too. There we go. You can see this one's a real puffer. It looks just like the papadums that I remember when I was a child going to Indian restaurants. First thing I always ordered was the papadums. So they're kind of like a cracker. Traditionally, naan is a very traditional Indian flatbread. Chapati, which is often called roti as well, or the papadums. So here you have it. Two options: Indian flatbread, oil-free, salt-free, gluten-free, and absolutely fabulous. So enjoy, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want more of these fabulous recipes.